Melbourne Rebels 2019 season. It's been a while to get around to this one, but I'm getting there at last. Probably wasn't the season all Rebels fans were hoping for. They finished 11th, so off the playoffs. Only 2 spots off the playoffs, with a 7-win and 9-loss record. I mean, 2018 was ninth, so a couple of spots better, a couple of points better on the log, and they missed out that year based on, I think, points difference. But it was still a 7-9 record that year as well. So stagnant, I guess, from this year to that. Oh, there's a bit of sun. Hold on a sec. Right, there we go. So yeah, stagnant basically. Not quite good enough to get into the playoffs. Similar to last year, and that they kind of had a good early run, but then it kind of didn't keep happening for them. They kind of fell off the pace. I've had a look at their stats, their fixtures record, how things went, and had a look at some of the good stuff. Some of the bad stuff, and when I looked at the stats, that's looking a bit nasty, and I guess what we can expect from them next year. So, in terms of the good, from their overall stats, they were the second best team at getting over the advantage line when they had the ball. That's a good thing. I guess in terms of some of their ball carriers, that speaks well to the way they were playing. They were 5th overall for line-out wins per game, so average line-out wins per game. So their line-out was operating well, and that's also indicated by the fact that they were the second best team in terms of winning their own line-out. So their line-out was good, was among the best in the competition. They were the 6th best team at going 7+ phases. It's a little bit of a stretch when I'm going to 6th best, but that's what it was. And they were the 12th team for run meters conceded, which is a good stat. You want to be 15th. Some of them were middling, and some of them were poor. So I'll go over the less impressive ones here. So run meters, 14th. I mean, I guess they're not always running the ball, but 14th. Tackle busts, 14th, which is kind of a bit of a contrast to getting over the advantage line. You would have thought if you're getting over the advantage line, you're perhaps busting tackles, but I guess you only have to go 1 meter forward to get over the advantage line. Their lineout wasn't perfect because 13th at winning the opposition ball, so they were very good on their own ball. They weren't that competitive defensively. 3rd for penalties conceded, so too much of that going on. 3rd for tries conceded, and an interesting one, which initially I thought maybe that's a good stat, but it ends up being quite a bad stat. 15th for average tackles per game, so maybe that means they're playing a lot of possession. They've got the ball, they don't need to make that many tackles. So the last team for the number of tackles they make per game. But for missed tackles, they were 2nd. Now that just doesn't compute. You can't be the 15th team for making tackles and the 2nd team for missing tackles. They should kind of match up. If you're having to make a lot of tackles, like I think last season, the Highlanders' tackle numbers average per game were just astronomical because they would kick the ball away and play defensively and try to hit you on the counter. So their number of tackles was huge, and you would expect their tackle count, the missed tackle count, to be high as well, but it was obviously a bit lower than it was. But for it to be so low on tackles and so high on missed tackles is really, really disconcerting for the way they're playing. They were 2nd for yellow cards, 2nd for errors, but it speaks to the fact that they were having a bit of possession if they got so many errors and tackles. 12th for ruck and more penalties forced, 14th for goal kicking. So 3rd for penalties conceded and 10th for penalties won. That's another one where you'd rather have it kind of be even, but they're conceding more penalties than they're winning. So there's a fair few things there which look, I mean, mainly the defense, I suppose, the error rate, the goal kicking, mainly the points conceded. There's a fair bit of negative stuff here. It's interesting. Like when I looked at the Blues, their record's worse than the Rebels, but their stats look good. So they look to be a team which is underperforming based on the numbers, but I'm not so sure with the Rebels. I mean, that being said, the stats don't take into account some of that magic that you would see from the likes of Cooper, Guinea, Maddox. They seem to have kind of a telepathy going on between those guys at times because they do have ways of unlocking defenses, but overall stats are not all that pretty reading. The fixtures, as I said, they started off really fast out of the blocks. They beat the Brumbies away 27-34, so 34-27. They beat the Highlanders, which was a massive win, 24-19. To be fair, I remember that game and the Highlanders rested a few players. So you feel like a full-strength Highlanders team would have won that game, to be honest. But still, beat the New Zealand team by 5 points. It was enough. And they beat the Brumbies. They played the Brumbies. 2 of their first 3 games was the Brumbies, and it was 29-26 at home, so it was close. But 3 wins on the trot, looking similar to last year. Very good attacking team. Then they lose to the Lions and the Sharks away, so their trip to South Africa doesn't go well. The Lions especially is 36-3. Sharks is 28-14, so neither of those results very good. Then they come back and beat the Sunwolves at home 42-15, one of their best results of the season. They lose to the Stormers at home 41-24, which is one of the worst results of the season, so they're back a good result up with a poor one. They lose to the Waratahs away by 3 points, 23-20. They lose to the Hurricanes away 29-19. That Hurricanes away, although it's 10 points, I think that one was probably a bit better than expected. They beat the Reds at home 30 points to 24, so close but a win. They lose to the Bulls at home 32-17. Again, it's a pretty disappointing performance at home. They beat the Sunwolves away 52-7, so they back up a disappointing one with quite a good win. And then they lose 3 games to close the season. To the Waratahs at home 20 points to 15. To the Crusaders away 66-0. And to the Chiefs at home 59-8. So absolute capitulation at the end of the season. I mean, you're looking at that record. Things that stand out to me, they lost all their games to South African opposition. 2 at home pretty comfortably, and away none of them were close. None of them were bonus point games. They only beat the 1 Kiwi team, and that was, as I said, understrength Highlanders side. And they got a couple of hidings at the end. 66 points conceded, 59 points conceded. In kind of you have to win games to stay alive, but they couldn't get anywhere near it. They had trouble with the Tars. The Tars did the double over them, but they did do the double over the Brumbies, who were the eventual top qualifier from Australia. So there's a small positive in that. But also, you look at the fact that they played the Brumbies twice in the first 3 games, and it's possible that the Brumbies were just kind of slow out of the blocks, whereas the Rebels were kind of hitting the ground running. So maybe if they'd played the Brumbies in round 15, you never know. But yeah. Pretty disappointing reading in lots of areas. There's not that many games that you look at. Obviously, the 2 wins over the Sunwolves are pretty positive. The fact they did beat a Kiwi team was positive. They beat the Brumbies, so it's 3 games on the trot, positive. But too many disappointing results amongst all these. So yeah, similar story to last year. How are they going to go next season? They are losing a lot of players. If you look at the players going, some of the big names, you got Coleman, Guinea, Ruru, Cooper. Those are probably the biggest names that are going. There's still some we're uncertain about, but who have we got coming in? We've got Frank Lamani, who's a Fiji international. I guess that's a bit of good news. Confirmed staying, Jermaine Ainsley, Anurao Rangi, Jordan Ulisi, Matt Phillip, Hardwick, Luke Jones, Isi Nasarani, Tamua, Hodge, Meek, Stain Petty, Maddox, and the coach Dave Vessels is around for a couple more years as well. So, the Rebels. You feel like they just need a few good forwards. Like, honestly, I feel like the Rebels have had a history of buying some pretty good backs, and like the fact they had Guinea and Cooper and guys like that this season is good, and they had some magic, but I remember their scrum being under a fair bit of pressure at times this season. Probably better than I expected at times, but they could certainly use a few... Maybe not international world class, but at least like top Super Rugby level Lucy's and props. They got a couple of good hookers, so I guess we will see how they go with recruitment or if some of the young talent comes through. But overall, I would say it was a pretty disappointing season for the Rebels. They keep threatening to kind of break that playoff mark, but they're unable to get it done. So yeah, a few glimpses, some magic, but ultimately missing the playoffs again. You guys let me know your thoughts on the Rebels season. How do you think Dave Vessels is going to go? He's still got a couple more years on his contract. What do you think he needs to do to get the Rebels up into that playoff picture? And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.